Well, hey, today is a resourcing day. We are going to resource you for these date nights. And so last night, I know I met many of you who you weren't able to make it last night, but you're here this morning. Just a recap. This is my heart. We call it in the Cunningham home the love jug. Proverbs 4:23 says, above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. In other words, I have to care for my heart. I take 100% personal responsibility for my heart and every word and action and attitude and behavior that flows out of this. This is my responsibility. In this session, we have a couple of fun sessions today, but we're going to move towards the very serious. In the last session this morning, I'm going to talk about catching the little foxes in your marriage and dealing with the little foxes before they grow into big foxes and talking about the little foxes before you're at the big fox level. And we're going to talk about some of the trends that we're seeing today in marriages in the church and in the country. But in this session, I want to equip you. There's a lot of resources that come with this session, a lot of free stuff that I want to give you that you can take and begin using in your dates and in your conversations. So if you have your Bibles, I want you to turn to the Song of Solomon, chapter 1. In your translation, it may be the Song of Songs. And we're going to look at 3 delays, 3 getaways that we all need. They're all in the Song of Solomon. Now, this is a fun session because this is going to help us. This session helps us with practical strategies on keeping the love jug full. A lot of you asked me last night, and I'm glad you asked. It means you were paying attention. What do I need to do to make sure I don't live life with an empty love jug? Or what do I need to do if my love jug is empty and it's toxic? So I thank you for your honesty. This session is going to be very practical on how you and I can make sure we are living life in such a way that we are full. We are full of God's love. Remember, we talked about this last night. We can't generate, we can't create, we can't produce love. We can't generate, we can't create, we can't produce forgiveness. We only receive it. But to receive it, we have to have something in our life we call margin. Margin is the gap between my load and my limit. So here's my limit. Limits, there's many limits that we all have. We have physical, emotional, relational, financial, spiritual limits, and we have to be on guard and understand our load. Because I'm 100% responsible for my love jug, I have to be the one who's aware when my load is starting to hit my limit. And for me to live in a place of being full, I have to retreat when I know I'm getting close to my limit. This is what I love saying at Woodland Hills when somebody will come up to me and go, hey, pastor, do you have time to talk? And I'm like, well, no, I don't. They go, oh, do you have something going on? And I respond with, actually, no, I don't. They can't even, because it's not how we process life. They're like, well, I know you're real busy. Well, actually, you caught me at a good time. I'm not busy. They're like, oh, okay. And then they start talking to me. I'm like, whoa, wait. I just told you I wasn't busy. And they look at me like, yeah, that means I can have that time. I'm like, no. If you start talking to me, then I'll be busy. Does everybody see how this works? But see, we just assume, oh, somebody's not busy, so we got to make them busy. No, we don't. We need to begin teaching this to our kids. How many of you have ever had a kid that said, I'm bored? Anybody ever have that? That's my favorite thing. It never is spoken in our home. You know why? Because when our kids say they're bored, they clean baseboards. Right? We go immediately to the cleaning. We'll help you prevent the boredom. But we have to understand, sometimes relaxing, unplugging, not adding more to the schedule, not saying yes to everyone who calls or rings or texts or Facebook messages you, stepping back and say, you know what, right now, if I start to really engage, I'm not at a good, healthy place. I know what I need to do to build this back. So I had a mentor friend a few years ago. He met with me. It's going on 10 years ago now, and he said, Ted, if you're going to survive in marriage, and you're going to survive in ministry, and you're going to just survive in life and family in general, you have to guard, with tenacity, you have to guard 3 very important delays. He said, you need a daily delay. You need 15 to 20 minutes a day where you are unplugged, and it's just you and Amy connecting to one another. Eyeball to eyeball, tech-free, right? Body posture connected to body posture. You need that 15 to 20 minutes a day. But then you need a weekly withdrawal. This is what we would refer to as a date night. He said, you have to go away from your home, you have to go on the town, and you just have to unplug and leave the phone in the car, relax, and unwind together. Talk about that one. And then he said the third one. He said, this is a biggie. A lot of couples don't prioritize this third delay. It's called the annual abandon. It's where you plan an overnight or maybe 2 nights out of town. You do a Priceline date. You do something. You begin to plan a special trip for you and your spouse because anticipation and dreaming are a big part of marriage that we've let fall away. He said, you do these 3 things, and I promise you, you will maintain balance in your marriage, family, and ministry. And then when you look at the Song of Solomon, you see all 3 of these are there. So I want to break these down for you this morning, but we're going to start. I want to show you just a couple of pictures of my family. Since I talk about them so much, I want to make sure. This first picture is of Amy and I on a date. That jacket I wear like every single day, and I never take it off. And Amy, she buys me new ones just so I can, refresh my wardrobe because she is a very classy lady, and she has to keep me on my toes. And I met her on a blind date, made the decision on the night I met her. This is my wife, and it'll be 18 years in October. I turned 40 last week, so I'm old. I've been waiting for 40, and so we're celebrating my birthday there. And then this is my 10-year-old daughter. This is the princess. That was the queen. This is my princess. We're at a restaurant. Does anybody notice what's in my hands? It's called a rainbow loom. How many here have a rainbow loom in your home? Raise your hand. Okay, my fingers are worn out because this is her passion in life, and she is a crafting girl. She is my princess. I explained to her years ago, you will never be my queen. Your mother is the queen. And the first time I told her that, she looked at me with the eyes that said, we'll see. There's room enough in our house for 2 queens. But she is my princess, and every day I want to show her how a queen should be treated so that she will meet a young man, and she will not settle, but she will find a young man, become the queen of that young man, and she'll know how a queen should be treated. And then I have this passionate, mighty warrior who is 8 years old. Like everything that you place in his hand automatically becomes a weapon. If you're a liberal, you're not going to get along with me too well because I let him pretend, shoot, and kill everything. And my son is an absolute ball to be around. I had to go to a counselor friend because Amy wants to make sure, that his obsession and passion for weapons doesn't translate into something dangerous down the road. And my counselor friend said, there's actually a lot of little steps, between where Carson is at and here. So I let him step. So this is cheesecake we're eating. So he's going to kill it and destroy it before we eat it as a family. I love my family. And so the first delay we're going to look at this morning is the daily delay, which includes my whole family and it includes my marriage. And I want to show you this out of the Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verses 12 through 17. I call this the daily getaway. It's the daily delay. So if you have your Bibles, I want to just show you where we're going and the idea behind creating your home as an Engedi. Engedi in this text is referring to a place of rest and refreshment and rejuvenation. Our home should be a safe place, and all God's people said. Our home should be a place where we unplug from the world. Our home should be a place where we enjoy one another. Our home should be a place where we take a break from the grind. It should be that place of rest and rejuvenation. I remember when my friend called me one day. He had 3 children under 5, and he's sitting in his driveway. His name's John, and he calls me. I go, hey, John, what's happening? And he goes, give me one good reason why I should go in there right now. I go, well, because your family's in there. Now, so I just want to say before we jump into looking at this in detail, you're not a bad parent if you've ever had to psych yourself up to go home. How many know what I'm talking about? Let's be real honest and transparent. So you're not an evil parent if you're like, my home's not an Engedi. Every person in there is crazy. They're insane. And dads today maybe don't think their home is rest and rejuvenation because they know as soon as they come in, this is the modern day parenting, you have to become the entertainer, right? You get the kids handed to you, and it's your job now, 2 to 3 hours. Keep them entertained, party, party, party. And dad's like, I just need a little break. So hopefully this very first text will will help guide you towards that our home is a place to rest, it's a place to enjoy one another, and you're even going to see in the text this idea of safety. It's a judgment-free zone. We get treated poorly enough in the world that we don't need to deal with that when we go home. We want home to be a place. So if you're a guy who's thinking, man, home is Engedi, home is a place of rest and unplugging and rejuvenation, I don't see it. Well, let's look at the text. I just want to walk through it. Verse 12, and again, they're not married yet at this part in the book, but this is the Shulamite woman speaking to Solomon. While the king was at his table, my perfume spread its fragrance. My beloved to me is a sachet of myrrh resting between my breasts. I love this idea because that's what a woman would do in that day to get that beautiful smell all over her body. She would just rest with a pouch of spice or fragrance between her breasts, and it would just permeate everything. And she's saying, that's Solomon to me. I can't stop thinking about this guy. He's in my thoughts and he's in my life. And she says, my beloved is to me a cluster of henna blossoms from the vineyards of Engedi, this desert oasis on the western shore of the Dead Sea. He comes in and says, how beautiful you are, my darling. Oh, how beautiful your eyes are doves. How handsome you are, she says, my beloved. Oh, how charming. And then she jumps down to verse 17. I love this because now it speaks to not only is this home that we're going to build together going to be a place of rest and rejuvenation, this home is also going to be a place of great safety. And that's what she describes in verse 17. The beams of our house are cedars. Our rafters are fir. When we come home at night, my wife and I are getting passionate about the family table. We love spending time around the table. My wife and I are studying these days something, and maybe you've never heard of it, maybe you have. It's called the slow food movement. Raise your hand if you've heard of the slow food movement. There's like 5 of you because it has not caught on in this country. It's where we slow down our meals and we enjoy one another around the table. My wife has gotten so passionate about the family table idea, she swapped our dining room and living room. Now, my wife's love language, I told you last night, is acts of service and quality time. She actually has a third one that Gary Chapman never came up with. It's called rearranging furniture. My wife is passionate about rearranging furniture. And I came home one, she's gotten so good at it, she moves it all by herself, and I come home to the room I thought I had is no longer there. And so the dining room is now in the family room and in the living room in front of the fireplace. And I'm like, what? And I'm one of these guys where we built it, and on the house plans it said living room. So it will always be the living room. It said the dining room. So it will always be the dining room. And she said this, and I love it. And it's really what woke us up to this idea of slowing down the home and enjoying time around the table. She said, the dining room table will be the center of our home. She said it's where we're going to slow down, and we're learning to appreciate food as God created it. And Scripture says in Ecclesiastes 9, 7 through 9, go and eat your food with gladness, drink your wine with a joyful heart, for now God favors what you do. Always be clothed in white and always anoint your head with oil, speaking there of joy and festivity. It says then, enjoy life with your wife, whom you love, all your meaningless days, for this is your lot in life, and in your toilsome labor under the sun. And I love the whole idea behind Ecclesiastes, that our work is toilsome. The word toilsome in the text means gruesome. It's difficult, it's painful, it's hard. But taking a break from the grind with your spouse and with your family to enjoy food and drink. That's the whole idea. And so we've slowed down the pace of our home so much. And when we enjoy meals out, I mean, we're talking meals that last hours. And my son, who's 8, my daughter's pretty good with it. My son, 8, not so much into it yet. And he'll ask us almost every night before dinner, is this going to be a long meal? Right? Because he's like a lot of guys. He has to psych himself up for this. But here's what we do, and the time goes fast. Now, we're not legalistic with this, so it's not like we sit down every night. We're not the Waltons. We're not there every night, 3 hours around the dining room table. But here's where you start. You're just not in a hurry. You just don't need the technology. Create a tech-free drawer, put all your technology in it, and enjoy one another at the table. And when we come to the table, our Engedi, when we're in our home, we are going to enjoy one another and find safety in one another. And let me show you how we do that. We have created a family constitution. If you don't have a family constitution, get one. If you don't have a family constitution, start drafting one. I'm going to show you how simple ours is. It's 10 points. But there's great strength and power when you come together as a family. When we convene around the table, it's where we discuss our common beliefs. And there's power in saying, what do the Cunninghams believe? And then when we're out and about around town, I'm able to see stuff or hear stuff or interact with people. And I'll look to my kids and I'll say, what do the Cunninghams believe? What do we hold to be true? And so let's look through some of these. And you can steal all of these as you begin your family constitution. I love people. We don't even have to take notes anymore. He's taking pictures of the screen. Man, we don't even have to buy pens anymore. Everything, I love that when you put some, everybody goes, okay, let's just do that. Okay, fully engaged, right? So let's look at this. Number one, and this is the only one that every member of our family weighs in on and participates in, because I can't force my children to love Jesus. The scripture says I impress a truth for the love upon their heart. But number one on our list, our entire family has agreed upon. Our entire family is passionate about it. And first and foremost, we will love the Lord with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength. He is the boss of our home. He will be the one we go to with every decision that we need to make. If you want to put verses next to these, that's Deuteronomy 6, 4, and 5. Number two, we will read and memorize Scripture together. We started last year going through, we got a little ambitious. We said we were going to memorize the book of Philippians together. And my daughter, she's firstborn. How many of you know the firstborn? Passionate, let's charge ahead, take the hill, knife in the teeth, we're going for it. And this just took the time, man. Around the table, we just kept going over and over and over the text. And just so you know, we have not yet memorized the book of Philippians. But we are pursuing it. Number three, we will pray together every day. I just want to challenge you. For some of us, dinner prayer is as simple as, Father, we thank you for this food. Use it to strengthen us. In Jesus' name, amen. I just want to encourage you to really slow down that time. Now, I'm not saying you have to start with your list of missionaries from the church and work your way through it before you eat, because my parents would never eat at our home if we did that. Right? I'm saying there are times, and for some of us, we need to take that time right before bed and use it. The time before bed in our home, on the majority of nights, is every member of the family praying. We're taking this time. Before we send the kids out of the car in the morning to go to school, we pray the blood of Jesus over them, protect them from evil, fulfill your purpose in their lives. We will pray together every day as a family. Number four, we will speak words of high honor over each other every day. This is how you create a safe home. We don't allow name calling in our home. We don't allow tearing one another down in our home. Our home will be a judgment-free zone. We get enough of that in the world. We get enough of that on the internet. We get enough of that through media and music and television. We need it to be a safe place. And one of our favorite things to do is to go around the table and share one kind word with on each member of the family. And many of you were here last year. You remember that I shared these, and I'm going to share them now again. I'm not going to go through as much as I did last year. Let me be able to open. But Amy and I we created these family devos because we wanted something intentional around the table. And so this is very much Deuteronomy 6. The key to learning is repetition. And so we start with these cards, and we created them, without a graphic artist at first, but we started every night back with the ant. And ask the kids, what's the ant? And it's Proverbs 6:6. Go to the ant, you sluggard, consider his ways and be wise. And we talk about hard work as a family. I love the B. B is kind words like honey, sweet to the soul and healthy to the body. And you see how these cards fit with our family constitution. We speak words of high value over one another. We bless one another with our words. And there's no greater joy. And I think this is the joy our Heavenly Father experiences when two believers are speaking blessing over one another. When I hear my daughter speak a blessing over my son, and it can be my son just looks at her, and he did something the other day. We were at a movie. I forgot, it was a cartoon, the Nut Job I think we were at, and he just got out his iPod, and he pulled out the notes, and he just started writing down in list form everything that he thought was cool about his sister. Oh, this is a value in our home. So we take turn. We call this the honor bombardment. We just go around and we all speak high value over the other members of our family. I love getting to the camel. The camel is, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter heaven. And we talk about as a family what it means to love stuff more than Jesus. I'm sharing these because you're going to see how these play out in our Constitution. The D is the dog. The kids love this one. As a dog returns to its vomit, so a fool repeats his folly. And you'll see where that comes about because we keep moving through number 5. We will offer grace for mistakes and avoid repeating the same mistakes. That's the dog in our Devo series. We offer one another grace. We asked the other night, we were on this card, and I said, hey, is there anything that's happened in the last couple of weeks that we need to work through, that mistakes that you've made that you didn't feel you felt grace from the rest of us, and we need to extend that to you right now because we want to learn from our mistakes. We don't want to be the dog returning to its vomit. So we go on. The A, the and, is number 6. And this was long before Dave Ramsey was on the scene. My parents were teaching me this. We will work hard, give generously, save wisely, and spend sensibly. I grew up with a dad who, when he would see the grass too high on a neighbor's yard, he would drop me off on the way home from church and say, go up, knock on the door, and offer to mow for $10. I go, Dad, that's 3/4 of an acre, 1.5 feet high. He goes, well, you're going to have to do the thing where you back up and shake the grass out and go a little further. And he would sit over at our house and just laugh and enjoy it. But my parents weren't really into children who sat around doing nothing. And how many of you grew up in a similar home? Let me see your hands. Yeah, so it was like, get out. So we teach our kids hard work. And I tell Carson, when Mom says go upstairs and clean, and you respond with, my legs hurt. Is that the ant or the sluggard? We will work hard, give generously, save wisely, spend sensibly. We will love, support, and serve our church. You know, a couple years ago, I was at a family camp. And many of the parents were just talking about how their children are not taking their faith seriously. And it's only about 45 families at this camp. And that they're not really taking the church seriously. And they wish their kids were more committed to the church. And at the end of the week, I stood up and I said, I don't know if you all realize this, but throughout this week, I've asked you all, individually, almost all of you, tell me about your church. And I'll be honest with you, I got pathetic answers. The answers I got were, well, you know, our church is doing this, they're kind of in transition, I just wish they would. Or, well, we don't really have a church that we call home. There's these 2 or 3 churches that we go to and that we like and all that. And I just walked through about 5 or 6 general answers we received when I asked parents about their church. And then I just asked them, I said, parents, I say this as a pastor. This comes from the heart of a pastor who loves you. Why in the world would you expect your kids to be passionate about the church when you're not? Why would you expect them to serve the church when you don't? Why would you expect them to be loyal and give and support the ministries of a church when that's not in your heart, right? The verse 6 of Deuteronomy 6 says what? These truths are to be upon my heart first. And then verse 7 says, then I impress them upon my children. We will love and support our church. And listen, Amy and I, we get exhausted on Sunday. I don't know if you, but Sunday wipes us out. But our kids can't get enough of it. And one of the reasons I don't even really entertain offers from other churches when they're like, hey, you want to come and consider? I love that we have dedicated our life to Woodland Hills Family Church. It's where our kids, and I tell the kids all the time because I kind of just need them to be aware that the Lord does change directions and plans. And I said, hey guys, what if we did get called to another church? And they respond with, we ain't going. I'm like, okay, but I'm going to ask you because I know they're sensitive to the Lord's leading in their life. I said, what if the Lord calls us to another church? And I'll never forget Corinne, when I first started sharing this with her about 3 years ago, she says, and I corrected her for the tone, but she said, I'll go if the Lord calls us, but I won't go if it's you. I went, okay, well, we got to work on 2 issues right here. Anyway, but we will love, support, and serve our church. We want our children to be passionate about the church. Number 8, we will laugh together every day. This is the value in our home. We do dance parties at our family table, and watching me dance is hilarious, and that always gets a good laugh. But we make sure we laugh every day, and I love, and Amy told me this last night on the phone, she's just thrilled, and she says, Ted, there's no greater delight in me than when I see you taking delight in our children. And I'm grateful that my kids are developing a great sense of humor. We were at a hotel the other day, and my daughter was staying with us, and my son was going with his grandfather. And Corinne left something in her grandpa's truck, and so Carson said, I'll bring it up to you. And we were on the 10th floor of this hotel, and Carson comes up with the whatever Corinne left, and Corinne was alone in the room, and Carson knocks on the door, and Corinne, doing as she was trained, said, who is it? And Carson, in the crack of the door, goes, your worst nightmare. And I thought, yes, these are those moments that I live for. My son, I love when I start singing or doing something in the car. We sing a lot in the car. His expression, and this expression just always makes me laugh. When I do something that I know my kids are getting to the age where it's embarrassing them, he responds with, awkward, right? So, hopefully, you're developing your family's sense of humor, and I'll give you some practicals to do that in just a moment. Number 9, and we talked about this last night, we will take 100% personal responsibility for our emotions, words, and actions. We will not have codependency in home. Talked about that. Number 10, and all God's people said, amen to this one. We will live in the moment, not on technology. Let me repeat that one. We will live in the moment, not on technology. There's a great video online if you get a chance to look at it. It's just everybody doing life. It's the saddest thing you've ever seen because, like, we're at the bowling alley, right? And somebody's bowling, and they get a strike, and they turn around, and they go to celebrate with their friends, but everybody's what? See, we're recording moments, but we're not living in the moments. We're picturing the moment, but we're not living in the moment. I was in line at a rental car company 2 weeks ago, and behind me were 3 couples in a row. And I looked back at them, no conversation going on. All the couples were standing there. And I got all judgmental. I was like, oh, that's ridiculous. You people are ridiculous. You need to be living in the moment. I turn around and I go, we'll talk about this in the last session, but this is a little fox that we need to get control of. We need to teach our kids how to live in the moment. We need to teach our kids when we're out at restaurants. I'm teaching them, listen, when the waiter or the waitress comes up to the table, make eye contact. If you're not letting your kids order, let your children order. This is how we begin to teach this. I don't want to raise children who have crooked necks because they're like this all the time. We want to live in the moment. And again, I'm not legalistic with this. All of our kids have technology, but we need limits. We need some limits for their health and for their sanity. For us, we've kind of set up with our kids, and vacations, the rules change a little bit. Time off school, the rules change a little bit. But on average, all technology across the board, we limit our kids to about an hour a day. Because if you know, most kids today are online. Teenagers are online 5 to 7 hours a day in some form. It's too much. Our children are becoming addicted. So this is the value of our home. We want to create a home that is an Engedi. So let's move on to the next one, because this one we have a lot of fun with as well. The weekly getaway. This is in, and I love this, the Song of Solomon 2, 1 through 13. Let's read it together. This is a fun text to look at. She says, I am a rose of Sharon, a lily of the valleys. He says, like a lily among thorns is my darling among the young women. She then speaks, great words of praise over him in verses 3 through 7. Like an apple tree among the trees of the forest is my beloved among the young men. I delight, get the slowness of this passage. I delight to sit in his shade, and his fruit is sweet to my taste. So what she's saying is, he's protection to me. I get shade from him, and then while I'm basking in his shade, I can reach up and get a little snack. I love this text. And by the way, that's my wife. I want to be that for my wife, protection and a snack for my wife. I want to make sure she knows she is safe with me, and I've taught my daughter as well. I am your protection right now until I walk you down an aisle and hand you over to hopefully someone who's not a mess, someone who's hopefully not addicted. We want to guard against this because we've spent so long protecting you and guarding you. We want you to understand the value of a shade tree. Let him lead me to the banquet hall, and let his banner over me be love. I love this idea. When you were in battle, In those days, there would be banners set up all around the field. So when you got into the thick of battle and you'd look up bloody, dirty, you would look for your banner, and look, you would run to your banner to find safety and protection. And what she is saying is, his banner over me is love. He's the place I know I can run to, and he will promote me, he will stand by me, he will encourage me. Strengthen me with raisins, refresh me with apples, for I am faint with love. She is so in love, it's impacting her physically. And then she gives a beautiful portrait of this. His left arm under my head, and his right arm embraces me, so he's holding her. So amidst all this energy and physical desire for physical intimacy, she says in verse 7, daughters of Jerusalem, I charge you by the gazelles and by the does of the field, do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires. That's a verse for all of my single friends in here. Be passionate about the one that you're pursuing. Desire is okay. Don't ever let anyone tell you that desire to be with someone is wrong or that sexual desire is wrong. It is not. However, you must put a guard. When is the right time? When is the time to arouse or awaken love? It's in the next chapter, chapter 3, which is a wedding. Arouse or awaken love at the wedding. Verse 8. Listen, my beloved, look, here he comes, leaping across the mountains, bounding over the hills. So now we're going to see this idea. We're no longer in the home. He's coming to get her, to pick her up, and to take her out. Look, there he stands behind our wall, gazing through the windows, peering through the lattice. And at first, it looks like he's a peeping Tom. Okay, he's not. This is speaking of anticipation. See, the winter is past, the rains are over and gone, flowers appear on the earth, the season of singing has come, the cooing of the doves is heard in our land. The fig tree forms its fruit, the blossoming vines spread their fragrance. Arise, my darling, look at this, my beautiful one, come with me. So there's anticipation with the date, and I want to just walk through this and give you some practicals on how you can pursue a healthy dating life. How you can pursue time together where you're encouraging one another and spending time growing. So in our church, we started this date night challenge. Okay, and I'll put up the website that you can go to. We've challenged the couples in our church to take 4 dates in 4 weeks. So when you go to this website, you are going to find thousands of questions and conversation starters to begin you on your dating practice. So the very first round, and we have multiple rounds on there. There's over 12 dates on there. Every time you hit a theme, you get 10 date ideas and 52 questions. So the first round is play, dream, laugh, and adventure. And when you hit on play, it's going to pull up 10 date ideas to just get you thinking about a date. And then it's going to give you 52 questions that you can take on that date to begin having conversation. Guys, this is very important because when you plan a date, you almost score more points in planning a date than you do actually going on the date. I try to teach this to men all the time. How you can score points with your wife while you nap. You want to know how to do that? It's real simple. Here's how it works. You tell her Thursday night we're going on a date, and you just scored a point. Tell her what you're going to do, you scored another point. Now, men are a little bit different. We give ourselves way too many points. And so I got to kind of help you here. We wake up breathing, that's an automatic 10,000 points. We do the dishes, that's 20 to 30,000 points. Men and women don't keep track the same way. So a man brings home a rose, how many points does he get? 1 point. So he's like, 1 point, that's great. What if I bring home a dozen roses? How many points do I get? See, that's the trick. That's the part that seems wrong. But here's how you score points while you're napping. I'm picking you up Thursday night after work and we're going out on a date. We're going here and we're doing this. She's like, oh, okay. You scored a point right there. But here's the good thing. Every time she tells a friend about it, you get a point. And you're not even there. Even better than that, this is so great. Every time she thinks about Thursday night, you get a point. And because women never stop thinking. Have you ever walked into a room and your wife is smiling and happy and she's engaged with you and you're like, oh, the worst thing you can do right there is open your mouth. Keep your mouth shut, back out of the room slowly, and continue to score points. This is the power of dating. This is the power of dating. This is the power of anticipation. And that's what the Song of Solomon chapter 2 is describing. This dating relationship. I'm going to go out and we look forward to this. And this is why date night is so important. All the date night opportunities this church is giving you, fantastic. Take advantage of those. Look forward to those. Anticipate those. Then have the tools as you go out on these dates. The tools are very important. So the laugh date. I brought some, I printed off some of them, but you can go on our website, you'll see. There's just pages and pages and pages of questions and fill in the blanks and conversation starters. And I got this great email from a lady who went on the laugh date. Her and her husband hadn't laughed in a long time. They were in what we would call a dry season of marriage. So they went on the website, they clicked on laugh date, they got a couple ideas, and they just decided, you know what, to get our dating started, we're just going to go to a restaurant. So they went to a restaurant, they downloaded all the questions. About an hour into the meal, right, the whole restaurant is noticing how hard this couple's laughing. And this is the email that I got from them. Pastor Ted, while my husband and I were enjoying a night out, I brought out the copy of the 52 questions from the laugh date. My husband and I were asking and answering these questions. We were laughing hard, a lot, and really having a good time. Our waitress came over and asked us what we were finding so funny and told us that the whole restaurant was talking about us. I love this. So we explained to her about the 4-date challenge and showed her some of the questions. She sat down and started talking with us and said she would love to do something like that with her husband. So I took out 2 of my other date notes and questions that I had copied before I left the home and gave them to her. She said, thank you so much, and that she couldn't wait to get off work, go home, and share these with her husband. I also wrote down the website so she could get a copy of the other 2 dates. I just wanted to let you know that the 4-date challenge is not only helpful in my marriage, but it's being passed on to other couples. We never took on this challenge as though this would be something couples would do to evangelize their family and friends. But the idea of couples spending quality time together, and there's some things, some considerations that you need to think on when you plan your date and when you go on a date. The University of Virginia did a study, and I know this isn't going to shock anyone, but they've just discovered, and every year they do a major study, and in 2011 they did a study on date nights and the value of date nights in the life of a couple. And here's what they discovered. They discovered, this isn't going to shock anyone, that quality couple time in whatever form or fashion that takes on, it increases marital satisfaction and it decreases the divorce rate. So obviously the whole study was you need to go out on a date, you need to spend more quality time together, but let me give you what about the date, because some of you might consider a date going to a movie, sitting there, and not even talking to one another. That's what we call a rut, not a date. So here, let me give you 5 elements they discovered. This goes a little bit deeper, gives you a little bit better understanding of what makes for a great date. So we have the questions, that's part of it, but let me walk you through 5 considerations for your great date, and this is what the University of Virginia, the National Marriage Project, discovered, and it's something worth writing down. I don't have it on the screen, so you can't take a picture. You might have to write this one down. Here we go. Obviously, number 1 is communication. That's why we decided to give you 52 questions for every date. You know what a lot of couples tell us? They're like, after raising kids, and we know this, once you start having children, the quality of the marriage does begin to suffer. We get that. Studies tell us that. Research tells us that. Couples will share that with us individually. And they said, we just get to a point where we go out on a date, we just sit there and look at each other. We're so exhausted. We're just wanting to relax and catch up. But there's some things about communication, and the reason we've given these questions, because a lot of couples, they go out and they're like, this is the time for us to catch up on household duties and chores and budgets and schedules. And no, we encourage you, as far as number 1 element, communication, try to guard that time. And use it. Say, tonight it's just about laughing. The next date, all we're going to do is dream together. We're going to begin to write down, what are our marriage dreams? What are our dreams for life? Then we're going to have a whole day where all we talk about is adventure, things that we think are too risky to do, but maybe we should consider trying. Okay, so to break us out of that in communication. The other one I like is novelty. Novelty. It's trying something new. In marriage, we get to a point of what we call habituation, right? We're just, everything becomes a habit, it becomes a routine, it's a rut, and we have to guard against that and try something brand new. So when I got a hold of this study, I decided for Amy and I to go do something that we had never done together, but we did when we were teens, and that was roller skating. I said one of our dates is going to be roller skating. Okay, so we strap up those nice moist skates, that Bubba had before me, and tie them up, and I'm going to go skating with my wife. We've never laughed so hard in our life. Number one, there was a 60-year-old guy there who skates a little too much. Anybody know what I'm talking about? He's still driving the Trans Am. He's still listening to Def Leppard. He's still smoking stuff out in the parking lot he shouldn't be smoking. Never really moved on from this. They start playing music, and this guy, Amy and I, we're not out there to prove anything. We're not out there to impress you. We're out there with each other, and we're skating, and we're laughing and wanting to sing those old crazy songs. And I kept looking over to her going, just put your bangs up a little bit for me. Can you get those going? I just thought this would be a fun time. But this 60-year-old guy ruined our date because every time he'd come by us, behind us, he'd be like this, and when he got in front of us, he'd go. And I'm like, back away, weirdo, all right? I'm on a date with my wife. Novelty is something it's the second most important aspect of your date. Try something new. You know what we tried a couple of weeks ago, and I've become quite passionate about it as well? Bowling. Bowling's fun. Look at Neil's like, hey, what's bowling? I love bowling, right? Okay, so you're like that guy in the skating rink. You don't need to spend that much time in the bowling alley. Okay, no. Oh, I'm just kidding. Go try something you did in high school that was legal, and do that now that you're married. Try something new. Go to a concert. Do an art walk. Find something that you've never done before and try a new experience together. Number 3, passion and attraction. When a husband and wife both put thought into what they will wear that night, and I start for some of you guys, like bathe, okay, shave, maybe put on a nice shirt. You can leave it untucked, but maybe just spruce it up a little bit. Little Old Spice. We got the whole thing going on. But passion and attraction, using the time to engage one another and allowing that physical desire to be increased. Number 4, this is an important one, and we don't think about with date nights. And you're like, oh, well, date night. We're doing okay in our marriage, and I like how Pastor Neil said it. You're like, well, we're not stressed, and we don't have time. We have enough time together. Let me tell you why a date night is so important for you. It's the 4th element. It's commitment. When you say yes to a date night, you are signaling to your family, to your friends, to your children that your marriage is important. You are prioritizing marriage in the home. Genesis 2:24, for this reason a man will leave his father and mother, be united to his wife, and the two become one flesh. You are saying to your children, your mom and I, your dad and I, this is important. And one of the greatest gifts we give you, my son, one of the greatest gifts we give you, my daughter, is a mom and a dad who love and enjoy each other. So we're going to be gone for about 4 hours, and the whole point of that is that we can come back and give this gift to you that we call a fun-loving marriage. We want you to enjoy that. That's what you ask my kids, what's your dad's definition of maturity according to Genesis 2:24? And he'll say, I will not be with mom and dad forever, so plan accordingly. That's right. You're one day going to have your own marriage. And I want you to begin to put these healthy practices in place, not because I told you it was important, not because I preached about it, not because I taught it, but because you watched your mom and I value this. It's a great signal to family and friends, not just for your marriage. And then, number 5, de-stress. De-stress. You need time away from the challenges in your life. You need time away to say, we're just going to spend a little bit of time together. We're going to enjoy one another. We're not going to be pressured into going somewhere or doing something that we don't want to do. This is our time. We're going to focus on one another. And then the last one, and we'll have a quick break. You go all the way over to the Song of Solomon, chapter 7, verses 11 through 12. We move from the daily delay to the weekly withdrawal to the annual abandon. This is now a big date. This is like an out-of-town date. And to be honest with you, my wife and I, we have places now all over the country, and we usually tag them to speaking events, but there are times we just love to get away. We've learned how to use the online websites to make the most of it and to get great deals, but we look forward to these get out of town alone, just the two of us, and enjoy one another. We read about this in the Song of Solomon, chapter 7, 11, and 12. Come, my lover, let us go to the countryside. So now we're going to get out of the city. She's saying we're going to unplug. We're going to go to a special place. These are two busy people. Solomon's running a kingdom. Let us go to the countryside. Let's get out of here. Let us spend the night in the villages. Let's find a little bed and breakfast. Let us go early to the vineyards to see if the vines have budded, if their blossoms have opened, and if the pomegranates are in bloom. And then look what she says. Very intimate. There I will give you my love. She's saying, let's get out of town to make love. Now, some of you ladies have gone about this all wrong. You want time away with your husband, and you have found nagging doesn't work. Going to your husband and saying things like, we never go anywhere, we never do anything, we never get out of town. What would your husband say if you said, hey, honey, I would like to get away on an overnight trip, just the two of us, and the whole purpose of the trip is to make love? We're going to get a nice hotel room, and amenities, they really don't matter because we won't be enjoying them. We're going to be enjoying each other. That's a little bit different, don't you think, than we never go anywhere, we never do anything, you never take me anywhere. We're getting out of the city to make love. There's a Hebrew term for that in that text. Does anybody know what the Hebrew term is? Bow, bow, chicka, chicka, bow, bow. You want to talk about anticipation. If going on a date Thursday night is something I get to anticipate, what happens something I planned in May or June? Now when I go on my weekly withdrawal, my date with Amy, we can talk about all that we want to do on that date. If you go to our church website, you'll find this as well. I shared it last year, but we have another set of 52 questions that you can download for your annual abandon. And it's all on sexual intimacy. And I know a lot of couples that plan their out-of-town trips, and they take that. Okay, don't let your kids see this list. But download it. We break it into 3 categories. Frequency, performance, and endurance. Frequency asks the question, how often should we make love? Best question we've ever been asked on our church website is, how often should an evangelical couple have sex? And I responded with, true story, compared to other world religions, I have no idea. But I recommend you increase the frequency and you enjoy one another. Okay, so you go and you take that on the date, and here's what I encourage you. If you decide to download that list, I want you to spend time with it individually and circle the questions you don't feel safe answering. Circle those questions first. Maybe do that the week leading up to the annual abandon, and then you go out of town, and it can be here in town. You go on the off season to the Broadmoor. Beautiful place. We had a wonderful annual abandon there. Unbelievable. You'll enjoy it, and pull out those questions and say, let's talk about our love life. We gave it to our church a couple years ago, and we gave it out with a 2-hour burning candle, and we told people, light the candle, have a conversation about sex for 2 hours. And next week, one Bubba came back to me and said, hey, pastor, yeah, I found out you light that candle under a ceiling fan. It only takes about 45 minutes. Okay, that was not the point. The point was for you to have just like you have conversations on your date about dreaming and playing and laughing and adventure, now on your annual abandon, you're going to spend some concentrated time talking about sexual intimacy and enjoying one another. We actually have expanded this into 4 dates where you can take frequency and spend a whole day just talking about frequency and what you can do. Why do couples, let me end with this, and then I'll share the resources and we'll take a break. Why do couples resist date nights? Why do couples resist annual abandons? I've asked a lot of couples, and there are 2 reasons. Can you give them to me? What's number 1? Money. Number 2? Children. And what they say is, we have children and no money. So we can't do this, what you're talking about. There's a lot of ways that you can do this. A lot of ways you can do this. I'll be honest with you. My minivan has 138,000 miles on it. the one that Amy drives. My Hyundai Sonata has 78,000 miles on it. They're paid off. Dave Ramsey teaches you to only pay cash for vehicles so that you can, live like no one else. I pay cash for vehicles, and I drive cars into the ground. Why? So I can go out of town and make love to my wife. You've never heard Dave Ramsey say that. And every time we think about getting a new car, this is what I love about paying cash. Every time we think, and if you're taking out loans for cars, every time we consider getting another car, we start to think back over some of our annual abandons. And we say, we want more of that. So I will go get the van tuned up. I will go get new tires on the car, and we will go make love. And all God's people said, amen. So you can budget this. If you're going to prioritize your marriage in the home, it also means you prioritize this when it comes to finances. Okay, you can do this. Childcare, there's so many great ways. The first way that I believe God has gifted us with, it's this great little word called grandparents. Beautiful word. Call them. Do you want to spend some time with your grandkids? We would love to. Well, they want to be with you. How about next weekend? Come on down. Okay? If that doesn't work, I challenge couples in our church all the time with the co-op thing. You this Thursday night watch their kids. Next Thursday night, they watch your kids. There's all sorts of ways around the excuses people give for not going on a date. So, in the next session, we're going to look at the little foxes. Is there a dad in here that says, you give me those cards, I'll start them tonight? Okay, you can come up, grab these. I always love the vulture is one of my favorite ones. I use this at bedtime. The eye that mocks a father that scorns an aged mother will be pecked out by the ravens of the valley and will be eaten by the vultures. Yeah. Night-night. And then on the back, we have talk time, and we have these back there. Having your eyes pecked out by ravens and eaten by vultures is a word picture for death. Not listening to your parents, making fun of your dad, treating your mom as your servant will cause you much pain as an adult. The Bible is very clear that we're supposed to honor our parents even after we leave home. It is the first commandment with a promise. God gives us parents to prepare us for life in the world. When you listen to their instruction, it helps you throughout your entire life. So you share that. If you talk about marriage, a woman's beauty, and everything in there. So enjoy that, my friend. There you go, the vulture. Okay, we talked a lot about this book. There's 3 chapters in here, one on the daily delay, the weekly withdrawal, the annual abandon. This has hundreds and hundreds of questions in it for you to answer. Is there a couple that said, we haven't jumped up on a trampoline lately, but if you give me that book, I promise I'll do it today. You will? You'll do the trampoline today if I give you this book. Both of you together. Okay, for 5 minutes on the trampoline. Okay, you can come get it. We do crack the egg. Have you done crack the egg where you get on the trampoline and you hold tight and the whole family tries to break you apart? I'm awesome at that game. Nobody can beat me at that game. So there you go. What's your name? Don. There you go. Thank you. You promised between God and gathered witnesses. Okay. Okay, so this one, Young and in Love, this was the first solo book I did after writing with Gary. Young and in Love, Challenging the Unnecessary Delays of Marriage. It goes through character, chemistry, competency, and calling. It helps us teach our kids how to form relationships. If you have a teen or a 20-something or a 35-year-old living in your basement with Star Wars bed sheets on his bed. Is that you? Mom, you raised your hand super fast. This is not about encouraging people to rush marriage. But you know what this book's passion is? Eradicating prolonged adolescence. Too much privilege, not enough responsibility. And it's about challenging young people. You don't have to make marriage the last of the adulthood milestones. So you can come up and get this at the break if you would like. All right, this one's fun. Trophy Child. This is saving parents from performance, preparing children for something greater than themselves. You process through vanity parenting, return on investment parenting, perfection parenting, gifted parenting, rescue parenting, companion parenting. Is this you? Are you a trophy parent? Look, they're just learning. Stand up even if you don't need the book, and he'll give you the book. But this saves you from performance. It allows you to love your kids, bless your kids, raise your kids without viewing your kids as an extension of yourself. So there you go, my friend, you bet, all right? And then this book, Great Parents, Lousy Lovers, Discover How to Enjoy Life with Your Spouse While Raising Your Kids. This is for the couple to poop the whoop right here. Right there, you were proud enough to raise your hand. This book right here, how many kids you have? You have 3 children. What are their ages? 5, 3, and 1. Let's gather around you and lay hands on, right? This is how you can do this. Live at a level of complete, full, overflowing I am connected to the true and only source of life. And this is how to prioritize the spiritual journeys of your home. How to eradicate the kid-centered home is the passion of this one. So read it and take an annual abandon. Thank you. And have another kid, right? A lot of what we talked about last night with processing emotions, we covered 27 core emotions. This is the book I wrote with Gary Smalley. I wrote that one with Gary as well. The rest of these I wrote with Gary. From Anger to Intimacy, How Forgiveness Can Transform Your Marriage. For the next 3 books I talk about, we have DVDs and workbooks with those as well. Great book to help you process. I know I get angry, but I'm trying to figure out why I get angry. Anger is a secondary emotion. What are the primary emotions that I'm dealing with? I want to be a good tender to my soul and understand the emotions that's going on. I saw you raise your hand. And are you getting this for a friend? Nope? Okay, good. So this is great. And it's not just an angry person that reads this book. It's someone who says, I want to be a healthy, emotional person and be a loving, forgiving person. And so there you go. Your name is? Sarah, thank you for coming up. Then this one, I love this one. I get the most criticism on it, The Language of Sex. But not probably how you would think. A lot of people will email me, call me frustrated. They think the book's the biggest ripoff they've ever bought because you don't get the foreplay until chapter 7. And the first half is communication and building the foundation to the best sex of your life. And they'll say, total bait and switch. But I said it's called The Language of Sex. It's everything you need to do to experience the best sex of your life, and it doesn't begin in the bedroom. It begins outside of the bedroom, but then we get to foreplay and creativity and we get to all of that, but so many of us in our fast food culture, right, we want it all, we want it now, we want it instantaneous. This is how to, at 20 years of marriage, 30 years of marriage, 10 years of marriage, experience the best sexual intimacy of your life. How come nobody's jumping up for this one? I don't see anybody. Hey, come on up. Boy, she's shaking her hand at me. All right. And you know what a lot of people do with this book when I give it to them, like at a restaurant or something, where I'm counseling with a young man at Starbucks? He usually does this. And he sets the book on the cover so nobody sees it. Or he puts his keys on the cover so nobody sees it. And then the last one, this is As Long as We Both Shall Live, Experience the Marriage You've Always Wanted. This covers 78 common expectations to marriage. And it talks about how you can process that. The first half of the book is, where did you get your expectations in marriage? Well, you got them from your parents, you got them from your personality, you got them from past relationships, and you got them from the generation that you grew up in. The last half of the book is, what are you going to do with your expectations? Because the gap between what we expect and what we're currently receiving, the bigger the gap, the more stress. But stress is a socially acceptable term for anger. We're mad. We're frustrated. I want this, but I'm getting this. So, anybody, unmet expectations? I'm going to give that to you, the picture taking, married to the picture taker. Okay, he took a picture of all the screen. You can have this. We're going to take about a 15-minute break. 15-minute break. I'll be more than willing to sign. I'll be back at the table. We'll meet back in here at about 10:35. Thank you, everybody, for listening so well.